Hey there, and welcome to Table to Stage. I'm Jordan Werma, and this is my podcast, my continuing mission to explore creativity through the stories and experiences of creators throughout my home state of Connecticut and the wider world. Today's creator is Sarah Segovia. She is a stained glass artist and the owner of Fragile Beauty Stained Glass. Sarah's glasswork is inspired largely by her love of gothic and horror imagery, but also includes some carousel horses and more whimsical designs. Now, if you're a subscriber and you have been enjoying hearing the stories of the creators on Table to Stage, I hope that you'll take a moment and leave a rating and a review either on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. They really do make a huge impact in terms of being able to find new listeners for the show. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll take the opportunity to hit the subscribe button on your player so you don't miss any future episodes. Okay, on to Sarah Segovia of Fragile Beauty Stained Glass. So, are you from Connecticut originally?
I am, yes.
Okay. What part?
I'm from Bristol.
Okay.
Yep.
And what did you do growing up there? Were you into art classes and stuff? Or?
Yeah, I was. I
Okay.
wasn't really academic minded. I was more artsy.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to create art. And of course, my parents tried to push me in a different direction.
Oh, did they?
Although
Okay.
they were supportive of
Yeah.
my artist, career.
Yeah.
But of course, they know, as an artist, you're not really going to make a whole lot of money.
So hit or miss.
Right. You have to. You're one of the few.
Yeah.
If you.
Did they have another path in mind that they?
No.
Okay.
Just
Just
maybe
have a
something else
backup.
besides. Yeah, exactly. But there wasn't really anything that I was interested in that way, like I was with art. But yeah, I grew up in Bristol, took art classes, went to Bristol Central High School, had a couple teachers there that I really liked. So I was just immersing myself in the art program, the art classes there.
Yeah.
And then I went to University of Hartford Art School.
Oh, okay.
And majored in painting, and haven't picked up a paintbrush since college.
So did you paint? Like all growing up, you were really painting was the thing that you were drawn to?
It was everything. It was
Okay.
drawing. I worked with pottery, just a whole lot of different things. I
Yeah.
never really touched stained glass until actually my dad took an adult education course 20 years ago at Bristol High School. I can't remember what high school it was,
Yeah.
but he took that class and he brought home his work, and I just helped him with the work that he brought home. He didn't really continue with it,
Okay.
but I just kept working with it and never stopped. And it was just something something in me just loved doing it.
Yeah.
Just working with the glass and the soldering. And so I just kept going with it, and
Wow.
took a couple classes, taught a lot myself,
Yeah,
taught myself
yeah.
a lot of stuff. And
Now, I remember when I was in middle school, maybe 6th, 7th grade, around that, we did some stained glass work in my art class. And I remember really enjoying it as well. I thought it was really cool, and it was really interesting the way you could make the designs and have to shape the, I think you said before that it was lead that is used for that stuff.
Right.
So whatever the metal, pewter, lead, whatever it was we were using, shaping that and then having to cut the glass at the very specific angles and stuff. I always thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you get to do that in school?
No, we didn't have any.
Never.
stained
You never
glass.
had any of
There was
that.
Nothing in high school.
Yeah.
I did. Then when I went to college, I did a study abroad program in the UK.
Okay.
And there, the major that I had to choose was public art, because I didn't want to do painting. I didn't want to do anything, one specific topic.
Yeah,
so the public art allowed me to work with pottery and stained glass and a lot of other things, and just incorporate a lot of mediums together.
Sure.
So I did a little bit of stained glass there, which was like my first time doing stained glass in a school setting like that. And then I just came back here and finished up, graduated college, and then just continued working in stained glass. I think the attraction was the colors that I can use with glass, so I can translate what I learned from painting into stained glass work.
Do you think being in Europe when you were introduced to stained glass had anything to do with that? Because I know there's so much history there. There's so many old buildings that have these big elaborate stained glass pieces. Were you exposed to any of that while you were there?
I did see a lot of that. We did a lot of art walks and things like that, but there wasn't really anything specific that I did. I was I was young, and we just wanted to be in the city and walk around and do.
Were you in London?
Kind of stuff. So in London, yeah.
So what kind of stuff did you get to do while you were there?
We did the program was public art. So I remember working with dabbling with different mediums, and it's very fuzzy because it was such a long time ago. But the point of the program was to work with the history of London, and incorporate your your designs with that program. But it was so.
It's just so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was that, and it wasn't anything that I really understood, being the only American there, and everyone else was kind of.
Were you really?
Oh yeah, there was a Greek girl, and there was an Australian girl, and the rest were British.
But they're all artists. They're all studying art
for the most part. I mean, I think a lot of some of them were just there because it was an easy program, so it didn't really feel
all right. Just like, an excuse to go to another country for a while. Yeah,
kind of. Yeah.
What got you interested in doing the study abroad thing in the first place? Was it just to get out of the country for a while?
Yeah, just wanted to experience something else.
Yeah.
London was always attractive to me, so I went over there. And
was this part of the Hart School?
It was the university. Yeah, the University of Hartford had a study abroad program.
Yeah,
and you could choose where you went. And I chose the UK partly because I just enjoyed the city, and there was no language barrier, and I think that was a good thing. And then a couple friends of mine came over afterward to do study abroad programs there, so I saw them as well over there. So
when you came back from the study abroad, did that experience change any plans that you may have had as far as what you were going to do when you finished up school?
I don't think so. I think I had my idea. I really wanted to be an artist. I wanted to do something along those lines. And I just worked for it. There was no option, you know? It was just, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to work as hard as I can.
And you thought you were going to be a painter coming right out of school?
No, I didn't really expect to be a painter at all. I mean, I enjoyed doing it. It was a hobby kind of thing, but I wanted to stick with the stained glass.
Okay. So you had already at this point decided that was your medium.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea at that time, like, what it would actually look like to be a stained glass artist making a living as a stained glass artist?
Yeah, I worked with, there was a local shop in Bristol that I volunteered at, and they kind of helped me with a lot of things. They gave me lessons, and I just kind of dabbled with, helped them with their projects, and kind of got to see what it was like in a business setting for them. I don't think I really at that point wanted to have a stained glass shop, but I wanted to be able to create my own designs. And, everywhere you see stained glass, it's typical teddy bears and sailboats, and it's the usual things.
Right.
And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to create items that you don't see everywhere.
Right.
And that was the uniqueness of it. That's what I wanted really to do, to design things that were so unique that was the attraction for people.
Now, but I mean, you just said, like, most stained glass is it's the images you're used to, the traditional, like, church windows or
the
teddy bears or lighthouses or any of that kind of stuff. So what about the stained glass medium do you think it was that attracted you to it, and you saw the opportunity to make your own impact on it? Because it is such a really traditional medium to work with, and it does draw such, regular images to your head when you think about it.
I just think, I was involved in the gothic community when I was in my 20s, and I saw people just breaking norms and doing their own thing, and it was new then.
Yeah.
I think now it's kind of like old and it's overdone now. But I just liked the uniqueness of it. I liked that they don't have to be traditional. They could use a traditional medium, but step outside of that and use it in a different way that you don't normally see.
So how would you describe your style of art?
It's hard to say. I mean, I started when I was in my 20s, I opened up my business and I did Gothic designs. And then I got into the horror genre. And so I do a lot of that. But I'll do any kind of design. But I don't know. I think it was just, that's my style.
That's the stuff you're drawn to.
Yeah, there was no real question about like, well, why? That's what I did. That's what I wanted to do.
Do you know what it was about that particular style of art, or the Gothic stuff, the horror stuff, that initially was interesting to you?
It's just one of those things that when you know.
Yeah.
It's just
okay.
That was my.
I mean, did you read like horror novels or watch horror movies or anything like that? Like.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Since I was a kid, I was into horror and just Gothic stuff and dark stuff and scary stuff. All that was so intriguing.
Right.
To me. And it didn't really scare me. It intrigued me. That's kind of a good way to put it.
Okay.
So I think that's what drew me to it. That like, why can't I use my stained glass background and create designs that are unusual?
Yeah.
I mean, the use of color is the same, and I think that's what's so beautiful about stained glass is that you put it in a window and you just see the colors of glass through the.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you see the colors of
the light
on the walls and stuff that comes through. It's really neat. Yeah. Now, as far as like the actual stained glass technique goes, is there a particular element of putting that stuff together that was initially a challenge for you that you had to overcome, or did it kind of all come naturally to you?
Obviously, there's no shortcuts to this, and you have to work at it, and you just have to practice and keep doing it to get better at it.
Right.
And when I teach, that's what I tell my students. There's no instant gratification here. You have to work at it like I did.
Yeah.
So it's not going to come out beautiful it's always beautiful, but it's not going to come out to your liking the first time you do it. You have to be patient and give yourself time. And the more you do it, the more you'll like it. So yeah, there was definitely work involved in getting it right and frustration and all of that. But it was just something I had in my head that I wanted to do, and there was nothing that was going to stop me.
Yeah. What kind of students are you teaching? Like who is attracted to the art of stained glass?
It's open to everybody, from children to adults. I've taught from 9 years old.
I just had a nightmare flash of my kids playing with glass.
How old are they?
9 and 7.
Okay. Well, last night I taught a girl how to make a Moravian star, and she loved it.
Okay.
So, and I've taught kids from about 9 or 10 years old to about 15, and they love playing with the glass. They love playing with the solder.
Yeah.
It's frightening, but they just go for it. Kids have no inhibitions. They want to delve into it, and
that's definitely true.
And that's scary to you as a father.
Yeah, right. Now the actual process of making. I mean, you're not just going to grab glass, start cutting it and breaking it. There's got to be some pattern or something that goes into this. So when you're just working on something for yourself, where does the idea for the piece come from? Is it something that you draw, or do you see something around that kind of inspires you to create something in that light?
Yeah, I get inspiration from a lot of different areas. A lot of times it just comes from a photo that I translate into a pattern form. I'm careful not to infringe on any copyrights, and I research the image that I want to draw to make sure that no one else is doing it. So I put different elements of pictures together to create one element. So sometimes I'm just drawing it freehand and just go over and over and perfect it until it's exactly how I want it to be. And other times, if I'm doing like the horror portraits, like Frankenstein, or I'll take it directly from a movie still and translate it into a pattern where I can, make the appropriate cut lines for the glass. So, I mean,
you're still using like the art education you got as a young person and all the way through to kind of do the pre-design work for all the stained glass stuff that you're doing, right? So you have to know how to draw, you have to know how to do all that other stuff too.
Yeah. And I was never a good drawer or illustrator. I was never good at that. And I feel like I've gotten a little bit better over the years just having to do it so much. Yeah. I'm still not where I need to be. I need graph paper to draw out my patterns. I can't do straight lines. And I mean, I'm not anywhere as good as I wish I could be. But you just do it. You just keep going and you practice and you get it right. And
yeah. Now, where do you get the glass to use for these pieces?
So there's a couple glass shops that I go to, and there's one in Seymour, Connecticut, called Glass Source, and I go to them. They're on Bank Street, and all the time I just buy my glass from them. Yeah. And there's a couple in New Hartford that I occasionally go to. Okay. But most of the time,
is this like going, like if I was going to go, for some reason, I wanted to go poster shopping and I'm flipping through the racks and looking at posters. Is it like that for sheets of glass? How does that work?
Well, it's not quite like that, but it's in racks. Yeah. So there's big sheets are in the long racks and the small sheets are in the shorter racks, and it's kind of just basically they're stacked together. Yeah. And just kind of.
And what are you looking for when you're going through pieces of glass to use in your work? Is there a clarity or a color value or something that you're looking for that tells you this is a piece of glass that is worth working with?
I think if I'm looking for certain green colors, I will just compare all, the different colors together to see what works better. Mm-hmm. It really depends. There's opaque glass, there's translucent glass, there's transparent glass. There's a lot of different textures and styles of glass. So I kind of I know most of what, just by having the experience of working with it. I know really what I'm looking for, but there's always new colors and styles being developed. So it's really just going and just picking out the ones that I like. There's no wrong choices. Yeah. I don't really feel like there's any wrong choices with stained glass. Okay. You just pick what you like and use it. If it works together with you, with your taste and to your eye, then it's great. It's good.
Now, okay, so you just mentioned that there's at least 3 different kinds of glass. There's the transparent, the translucent, and the opaque. And we talked a minute ago about the idea of the light coming through the glass and projecting something through it into the room that it's in. Do you take into account the passage of light through the design as you're creating it? Like, are you using opaque to create a shadow somewhere, or is it really just about looking at it and seeing a darker color when you're looking at the glass construction itself?
That's a good question. I think I try to stick with, for example, I'm doing a Frankenstein portrait right now, and I'm trying to stick with more opaque glass. So a glass that is there's a little more translucent than completely opaque, so it lets a little bit of light through, but it's not as translucent or transparent as a cathedral glass, which is just the colored glass with completely with light coming right through it. So I like a little bit of translucency in the glass, just because it's something that you can either hang in the window or on a wall, and it will have, you'll get to see different sides of it. So if it's on the wall, it'll be opaque to you and you'll get to see the color of the glass. But if it's in the window, the color of glass changes slightly, and it just might be a little lighter or darker depending on the way it's made. So I don't think I really think too much about that. I just look for what looks good. Because you can mix translucents, transparents, and opaques together. There's no rules about that. So I really don't think too much about that. I just go with what looks good to me.
So it's not necessarily about the light coming through the glass as much as it is just the actual design of the pattern and the colors.
Well, it does have a lot to do with how it looks in the light, but it's not the only thing that I consider.
Now, when you're working on designs for yourself, are you what size pieces are you generally working with?
Really all sizes, from small suncatchers to larger panels.
Is there one size that you enjoy working with more for yourself, or do you like to jump around?
I do. I really like it. I do like the challenge of working with a larger panel. I like that it's a one-off piece that I can design and kind of put my own personal touches on, as opposed to just making small suncatchers over and over again, which I do enjoy doing, but there isn't as much of a challenge to that as there is with creating and designing my own panel, like my own large design.
Yeah. Now, that's interesting. You said the challenge of a large piece, and I, having not really done very much of it, like I said, I think junior high or middle school was the last time I did it. To me, I would automatically assume that a small piece is more difficult. Is that not the way it is?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be. I'm not saying that small pieces are easier than larger pieces, because a lot of times they're not. It depends on what really you're doing.
Okay.
But there is more of a challenge in larger pieces. And the challenge comes in drawing it out. So if I'm drawing a larger design that's like a custom design for a client, then it has to be to their specifications. So if they're whatever subject matter they're looking for, I'll draw it out and make sure that they like it. And it's just different than doing something that is, say, a fleur-de-lis or something that's just a simple, easy design to work with.
When it actually comes to constructing a stained glass piece, what are the tools that you actually use, and what's the process like?
So I work in the copper foil method pretty mainly.
Okay.
I don't really work with leading.
Okay.
So the copper foil method allows you to create more intricate pieces, smaller pieces, and you get more flow and intricacy with your designs. So everyone works with the pistol grip. I use a pistol grip cutter or a carbide wheel cutter. That's the cutter that scores the glass. And then there's the running pliers that break straight lines or slightly curvy lines. And then there's the grazer, which nips and breaks pretty much everything else. And so those are the three tools that I mainly use.
Okay.
And then there's other tools that if you're cutting a straight, like if you're cutting straight lines, you have a strip cutter, you have a circle cutter. There's a lot of other tools that you can use.
Right.
And then there's the grinder, which smooths out the edges of your glass.
Okay.
Because there's no way it's very difficult to make it like a perfect cut, and there's always sharp edges on the pieces that you do. So you have to grind around the piece just to smooth it out.
Right.
And then I copper foil and solder.
Okay. So the solder is at the connective pieces, and the foil is around the entire piece of glass?
Right. The foil wraps around the whole piece of glass, and then you're putting them onto your pattern, all completely foiled, and then you're soldering each line.
Oh, so the full length of it.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
the
okay.
solder replaces where the leading would be.
Okay.
So you're just soldering the whole panel.
Right. Is there a difference in the way that pieces are put together depending on size, like to manage the weight or the way it's going to be hung or anything like that, or are they all put together the same way?
When you're doing larger panels, the way I would draw it out is I would have certain cut lines that interconnect and cross with each other to add more reinforcement to the piece, as opposed to straight lines that go across. Those are creating weak points.
Right.
So if you draw your pattern out so that you have lines that cross with each other and interconnect, so that it adds strength to your piece. But generally, it's the same. The copper foil is the same.
Okay. That's interesting. Like you'd think the more joints, the more pieces something has, like the more fragile it would be. But I guess if you just have two pieces with one seam right between them, they just right at that spot,
it would
break right apart.
It would just bend. Yeah. So there is reinforcement that you can put on, like rebar or some kind of wire. You can, any kind of backing that you can put on it. That for the larger pieces, it's not necessary for smaller pieces. But once you get like 36 inches or so or more, then there should be some reinforcement.
Okay.
On there, but
what's the largest piece that you've done?
I think it was something like 29 by 36 or somewhere around there. It was a carousel horse.
Inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a carousel horse design for a customer in Torrington that's in her house now, and that's probably the largest that I've done to date.
When people come looking for a custom stained glass piece, do you find that there's something that many of them are looking for, like a theme that runs through? Do people come looking for similar custom pieces, or are they just wildly variant?
I think that when they contact me, they already know the style of work that I do and the genre of work that I do. So I think they're comfortable coming to me with some weird requests.
Okay.
So like I do a lot of horror conventions, and I'll get a lot of customers who want, I just did a larger Frankenstein piece for a couple customers that it's just I have a regular size, a 7x9, and they wanted it enlarged to a larger piece. So, and they want to hang it in their house, and
Do you have specific patterns that you do repeatedly, or is everything original?
I design my own patterns, and then I would just do them over and over again. I keep them, and then so my website has different items on there, and I do wholesale work for shops, and they frequently order similar items. So per their shop, they have specific designs that they have in stock. Okay. And I just work exclusively with them. So they would have certain designs that I would only sell to them. So they would just reorder those specific designs. Okay. That they really couldn't get anywhere else, because a lot of times it's for them. So it would just be something that I wouldn't design for anyone else, or I wouldn't make for anyone else. Right. It's exclusive to their shop. Right.
Now, when people come to you looking for custom work, are they looking for a functioning window sometimes, or is it something to just want to hang or display somewhere?
Most of the time it's something to hang in the window. Okay. I think for the most part they're looking for decorations in their home. So something that would hang in the window or on the wall, but it wouldn't be something that would replace the glass in a window and put in something like that. Right.
Okay, so in addition to the stained glass, though, you do mosaic work as well. Mm-hmm. What are the differences and similarities between the mosaic work that you do and the stained glass work?
They are a little bit different. The similarities would be the materials that we use. So I take all the stained glass scrap that I have, and we do stained glass mosaic, which is great. It's another way to use the excess glass that I have. And then cutting it is the similar styles of cutting, but that's kind of where it ends. And it's just a different technique. It's not as intensive as stained glass is. It's not as exacting as stained glass is. It's just, you can sit there and chop up your pieces of glass and just arrange them in a puzzle-like form and create a design. Mm-hmm. I think there's less intimidation with doing mosaic work than there is with stained glass work. Yeah. That's what I've noticed with the people that I'm teaching.
Now, when you do the classes, are the people coming in to do mosaic classes, are they people that are experienced artists? Are they children? Like, what are your classes made up of?
Mainly women. Okay. And mainly people who have never done it before. I teach adult education, so it's just a night class where, this looks interesting, and they want to sign up for it and try their hand at it. Yeah. And I love that because it allows me to teach people what stained glass really entails, so that, you can understand why it costs so much, because people have an issue with this stained glass panel being whatever price it is. And I explain to them, well, first of all, the raw materials are expensive right off the bat. Right. And then with cutting, it's not an easy process. And I think I make it look easy so I can cut, this way. And then they go to do it and, it's a lot harder. Yeah, it is harder because that's where the art form comes in, that you have to hone your skills and get better at it. This is why stained glass costs so much, because it's not an easy art form.
Well, I mean, that is sort of true of all art.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
People will pay $2,000 for a refrigerator and not even think about it. Right. But when you're talking about
a painting
or stained glass,
your life goes into your artwork. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's no price that you can put on anything that will justify what it would cost. You can paint something and you're charging $2,000 for it, but there can't be a price on it. It's everything. All your everything, into this in this canvas, and that's kind of how it is with stained glass. But in addition to that, it's not easy to cut and break the glass. It's a little bit scary. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I like teaching people that so they can see where the difficulty comes in.
Right. Have you ever injured yourself?
Oh yes, I have every day. Yeah, I've had some doozies. You want me to go into?
Well, we don't have to get the gory details. I mean, I know horror is your thing.
Right. Not like that. Not on me. I don't.
But Like when you're doing classes, like I'm assuming safety is something that has to be taken into account.
I don't like to focus too much on it. I mean, everyone knows that glass is sharp, and so I just explain, like, just don't get frustrated with it, because if you get frustrated, then you're going to do it the wrong way and you're going to cut yourself. So when I explain how we use the tools, I make sure that everyone watches how I cut and how I break the glass.
Right. Because
doing it any other way, you're going to get hurt. And there really haven't been any freak accidents like that.
Oh, that's good.
Luckily, with some wood, I can cut wood. Yeah, because I think people are very timid and careful with it. But, it does happen. I mean, you have to know that going into it, that it can be a little bit dangerous.
The classes that you run, do you use the same pattern for everybody, or do they all get to choose their own patterns?
For the classes, I have a couple sets of patterns that I use for everyone. And I have a heart suncatcher that's only 5 pieces, and it's a small, easy, beginner suncatcher that everyone can do. So I kind of really just want people to do that first before they love to come in and make lamps and larger pieces, but it's just not possible for your first project. You really have to just
like a Tiffany lamp kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Some people have really wanted, they just, let's make that, but you have to get the basics down first. Once you do the initial project, the small project, once you get a feel for all the steps involved in stained glass, then you can do whatever you want.
Right.
So, but the initial class, you have to either do a heart suncatcher, or sometimes I have a little flower suncatcher, something small, something that's about 5 or 6 pieces, where you can just get the feel for how to cut, how the grinding works, how the foiling works, and how we solder it.
Yeah.
When you can grasp that, then yeah, sure. The bigger project you do, the more time it's going to take.
Right.
You just have to understand that. But the outcome is beautiful. The outcome is very rewarding. You're going to love what you do. So once you create that first piece, then it's great to see the expression on people's faces that they made something. Yeah.
How many of them come back and do it again?
A lot of them are repeat students. Yeah. A lot of them are just like, I want to come back and make, and they do this initial project, and then they come back and they bring in a pattern that they want to do, and say, okay, sure, go ahead and do. You know what you're doing. They're all small, easy projects to do, but they're allowed to choose whatever they want to do, and they come in and bring, whatever design, and then just go for it. I'll help you with it, but yeah.
Now, is there a difference in, I mean, obviously the difficulty is going to be different, but if you're going from kind of what we've been talking about, where they're 2-dimensional pieces to hang in a window or on a wall or something, or if you're going to actually do like the lampshade or something and you're building in 3 dimensions, is there a difference in process, or is it all done pretty much the same?
There's a difference in doing a flat panel and doing something that's 3-dimensional. It's just the way it's assembled. So flat panels are soldered flat on the pattern on the table. But if you're constructing, let's say, like a Moravian star or something that's a 3-dimensional piece, constructing is a little bit different, and you have to hold the glass a certain way and solder it while you're holding it to hold it in place. And I mean, they're both beginner projects, but the assembling is really the only difference.
Okay, but they're all held together the same way, the same copper and solder and all that. Okay. Yep. Is there a specific project that you've done, whether as a commission or for yourself, that was particularly difficult, like that was a real challenge structurally for you to do?
Yeah, I've done Moravian stars. Those are the 12-pointed hanging spinning stars.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I did one that was a tree topper, so I had to enlarge it a little bit and construct a way to make it so that you can put it on top of the tree. And so there's, that.
Oh, so it was like a structure inside the star almost?
It was the flat piece coming down, the point coming down, and then on that I had to solder a rod that came down, and then 2 brass hoops that went on, so that you can put, that over the top of the tree. And just trying to make that look right, make it not wobble, those kinds of things like that. It's just, you have to try it, see if it works, and then if it doesn't work, you can unsolder it and change it. And so it's trial and error a lot of times for this kind of stuff. And you just kind of keep working at it until you get it to where you want it to go.
Yeah.
So there's always a challenge in something like that.
Now, is there a busier time of year? Do you have like a seasonal influx of people looking for custom work at any particular time of year?
I would say custom work. I would probably say Halloween to Christmas is usually busier because of gifts and things like that. Halloween time is when I usually do the horror conventions. They come around then. So
you get a lot of pumpkins probably.
Just anything that I can think of horror related. Yeah. And I try to bring new designs every year. But I think that's you see an uptick in requests for custom work once they can see what you do. Mm-hmm. And then they ask if I can do this in this particular color or this particular size. And then, can I do this for a Christmas gift or something like that? So I think there's probably more inquiry about custom work in that part of the year than there is for the rest of the year. Yeah.
How far in advance do people need to get their order requests in for you to get them all done?
It usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. From the start point of drawing the design out to cutting and finishing. Yeah. Usually about 2 weeks or so, and that depends on if I'm working on other stuff at that point. But I try to get stuff done really quickly. Yeah. And I try to have a small turnaround time for pieces. I don't want to keep people waiting too much.
Now, I think you said your standard size was 7x9?
Yes, 8x10, 7x9, around that size is just a basic portrait.
And how long does something like that take, start to finish?
That probably a few days. Okay. Yeah. And if the pattern's already done, then that's the hard part's over.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a piece you've done before, and it that standard size, it's a couple of days work. For every single one of them. Well,
it depends. I mean, I would say like 3 to 4 days or so.
Wow. Now, if people want to actually take classes with you, how do they get in touch with you? How do they sign up for these classes?
I do classes through EdAdvance in Litchfield, and they have different locations around Connecticut, Torrington, Woodbury, Watertown, Falls Village. There's a lot of different locations. So they can contact edadvance.org. That's their website, or they can give them a call and look through the catalog and just register for classes there. Okay. I also teach through Farmington Adult Ed, their continuing education, and Bristol Adult Ed, and there's a lot of other places that I do teach at. So,
and if anybody wants to see your work, do you have a website?
I have a website. Okay. Yeah.
What's the website?
It's fragile-beauty.com.
Okay. And what kind of stuff do you have on the website?
A mishmash of everything. A lot of weird stuff there. Okay. I got horror designs. I've just got, regular classic designs. I try to just put up just a varied amount of different designs. And I'm constantly creating new things that don't always make it up on the website as quickly as I wish they could be. But I also have an Etsy account where I put up one-of-a-kind pieces that I create.
All right. So if anybody's interested in purchasing your stuff, it's an Etsy site.
Etsy, yeah. Etsy would be like the newest designs, the most recent, and a lot of one-of-a-kind or one-off pieces. Okay. I spent some time in New Orleans, and I opened up a shop there with a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I moved down there in, I think, 2001. And just loved it so much, and was obviously doing the stained glass at that point. And it wasn't. I know I worked for some friends who had shops, and I just did that. And then right after Katrina, a friend of mine said, "Let's open up a shop. I have a location that the landlady is going to give us a great deal on for rent." And
imagine that after Katrina.
Yeah, let's do it. Right? What else? And so we did, and we initially started out wanting to be just a hub for local artists. Okay. Because we were both local artists. We both did stained glass work, but we had different styles that we worked with. I think I did that for a year, and then I think we just amicably split. Yeah. She decided to keep the shop, and I wanted to go in a different direction. But it was a really great experience for me. I met a lot of people. I learned a lot about business, and there's so much structure to it. Yeah.
Did you do a lot of voodoo stained glass while you were down there?
I do, yeah, of course. That's another thing. Like when shops down there want specific items, I tailor them to their shop. So that's where the exclusivity comes in. So there's a shop called Urzali's down there, and there's a voodoo shop, but it's not just voodoo. I mean, she has handmade soaps and oils, and she's amazing, and so we work together to create unique designs that I'm not doing anywhere else. Certain color-specific voodoo dolls that she wanted to carry in her shop, certain sugar skull designs. So I worked with her with colors and designs, and showed her, approved. She approved them, and.
Yeah, you did sugar skulls in stained glass?
Oh, yeah. And one of the things I love about stained glass is that I can work very intricately with pieces. A lot of things are very simple, and that's kind of easy. I wanted to challenge myself and do more intricate pieces where we're working with a lot of small detail. And it's a pain in the butt. It's hard to do, but I think that kind of speaks to your level of talent if you can make smaller pieces. And,
it's incredible the amount of detail in something like this, the tiny pieces of glass that have been cut into very specific shapes other than squares.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like I can see getting a tiny square done relatively easily, but these pieces that are, I don't know what the shape necessarily is, but almost like leaf shapes, or the multiple curves in different directions and stuff. That's really fascinating to be able to create that.
I like to show what can be done in stained glass. I don't think a lot, there's a lot of easy stuff out there.
Yeah.
But I'd like to show the level of intricacy that can be done in glass. There's so much you can do with it.
Now, is this a standard size piece that you do?
That would be. Now, I designed this one, and I had to federally copyright it because I had someone steal it from
Really?
me. Yeah. So and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of theft online.
Of patterns.
Of designs. Yeah. People don't really understand that just because it's up on the internet doesn't mean it's free for the taking.
Yeah.
And I started putting my copyright watermark on there because I feel like if it's not there, people think, oh, well, it's just an image on the internet. Right. So I've had a lot of issues with people stealing work. And
now, do you copyright all of your designs now?
It would be too expensive to federally copyright everything. So basically, once you design it and put it on the internet, your work is copyrighted.
Right.
That is proof that that's your own. But it's not enough to do that, to make people not want to steal it from you and call it their own. And I still, there's still stuff floating around there that, it's hard to, you have to be vigilant. You have to track everybody down. You have to notify them, but it's really still difficult to catch every single one. And some people just do it for their own.
Well, the internet is so big. Like being able to track all that stuff down has got to be nearly impossible.
Yeah, that's why. I'm sure there's stuff out there, but this particular one, this is my baby. This is the one that I worked really hard on this design. It's hours of design work and tweaking it and perfecting it and getting it just right. And so someone comes along and just takes your design and calls it their own. That's a stab in the heart. It's like anybody who would just infringe on your copyright like that. So I think people need to understand that you need to respect other people's work. And if you want to create it, contact the artist, talk to them, ask them. If the answer is no, the answer is no. But most of the time, artists will explain to you, well, maybe if you could change it a little bit, or if you could do, or something like that. But it's not good.
So how are you feeling right now?
I'm fine now. Yeah.
Yeah.
not so nervous anymore.
Okay. Don't get nervous. All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again to Sarah Segovia for coming on the show. Stained glass has always seemed to me to be a rather underappreciated art form, and I really enjoyed being able to hear about it from such an accomplished artist as Sarah. I hope you'll visit fragile-beauty.com to see her portfolio, and if you're interested in learning more about creating stained glass pieces of your own, then definitely take advantage of one of her classes in your area. Oh, and check out the Fragile Beauty Etsy page as well. There's really some great work available there. So here's one more reminder to head over to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, Podknife, or wherever you listen, and leave your rating and review of the show. And if you have a friend that you think might be interested in hearing the show, be sure to tell them, or text them, or TikTok them. I don't know what that app does, but I guess the kids like it. That's it for this week. Until next time, keep creating.